It was a different day in the boys' lockup today. Maybe it was the officer telling the teens if they didn't attend poetry class, they had to remain in their cells. Whatever it was, 3 tables of teens waited for me to start the film Forgiving Our Fathers on YouTube. I knew many of the young men were from the fatherless tribe like me. I knew there were generations, grandfather to son, in lock with prison absence. I knew there were cruel stepfathers or mothers, boyfriends who had abused these young human beings. But the absence of behavior problems, the absence of power trips, the absence of oppositional tugs of war, requests for stories about my Vietnam veterans' ball cap, young men asking for help to write a poem, pencils moving down the page made this a different day. Lines of poetry expressing things like, I don't know my dad, but I wish I met him, or my whole life until 5 years ago was like hell on earth, or I woke up one day and chose violence, now I'm behind bars, or when I have a kid, I'm gonna be what my dad wasn't. He was always silent. What happened today? Why was this class so cooperative when for months and months I felt mostly like I'm in a car at a railroad crossing waiting for an endless train to pass? Maybe the young poet's line of poetry gave all the tables of paper and pencils held at the ready seeds of hope when he wrote, do I love you or do I don't? You are my father, but not the only one. Welcome to Second Sunday Jimmy Poetry. And if you are here to read or listen to poetry, this is the sign-up sheet, and I will have that over there on the table. Please avail yourself to the literature that the different poets have bought and have brought. This is Jimmy Collins. He's the man that approached me over at the Big Kitchen and said, let's start an open mic. And I said, no, I don't want to deal with all those personalities because we're hungry for community. And so the people you're going to hear today, I'm looking around the room, there's an awesome talent in the room. We're not as big as we used to do, but our quality has gone up. Jimmy Collins was a Black Panther back in Indianapolis back in the day. He would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he would go to a Black Panther kitchen and he would cook for children that were going to go to school hungry. And they saw in 7 cities, they served about 15,000 children every day back in the day. And then when that was all finished, he would go out and he would do some clothing drives. And later in the day, they would go to elders' homes and they would bring elders medication that they either couldn't afford or they couldn't get to. And so that's my partner, Jimmy Collins. And so can we give him some love, please? That is one of his paintings right there. And when I was talking to him over at Spanish Village, I looked over my shoulder and I saw that. That's from the 1968 Mexico City Olympics, and he just drew that picture. And he definitely gave me a friend discount on that. So welcome. Let's do a little bit more housekeeping. The restroom is behind me on the left. Please avail yourself to the greatest deli in La Mesa. They got some really good food here. Can we give love to our Zoom master, Alfred Williams? He's making sure that the Zoom works okay. He's in charge of that. We're talking about Joe, and Alfred and I are talking about the brigade, the San Diego Tijuana Revolutionary Poets Brigade, doing a fundraiser for the Friends of Friendship Park because the La Migra, the Border Patrol, is building a 30-foot wall at the beach on that border, and the border community does not want that. They have not listened to that input. And so we'll be talking more about that later on. And so I think I've covered all the bases. Poets have 2 poems or 5 minutes today. Please remember there's people waiting behind you to share. We usually do pretty good with that. If you're a musician, and I have a friend of mine from Puerto Rico who's teaching right now down in the gas lamp. He's gonna come by and he's gonna play some guitar for us. We love musicians. You're a musician, you have 10 minutes or 2 songs. So are you ready for some poetry? Really? Got a poem today? This is Alfred Williams, award-winning filmmaker and a poet. Come on up, brother.
Well, he had to fill up the first one. It never gets signed.
What's up? Card.
Welcome Julio and Deborah and Regina and Kat. Welcome.
Thank you.
You want me to go to someone else first and you can come up after them?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we'll keep moving on that way. All right, so this is a gentleman that I don't owe any money to, do I?
Pick it up.
We've done 2 books together. It's been a joy working with him. He knows a lot about industry, but he definitely knows how to write a poem. This is Joe Milosh.
Oh, we didn't hear that. But
Just a little comment. I want to try something I haven't tried in a long time. I'm just going to do an impromptu piece here. I'm just going to make it up. Of course, I make everything up. So what difference does that make? You know? This is called The Little Girl and the Geese. On top of the hill is the mother. The scream in her throat is caught behind her teeth. Down the slope to the lake are reeds, and out of the reeds and on to the sandbar are 6 geese. All of a sudden, out of the brush comes a young girl, maybe 2, maybe 3. She walks among the geese. They stand tall and spread their wings. Their beaks reach towards the sky as if they're trumpeting. Their wings are flapping. The girl is among them. They are dancing. They are dancing. I'd like to read another poem that I made up. As we all do. Well, anyway, never mind. This is called No One Thinks Sam. It's out of my latest book called A Walk with Breast Cancer. Some poetry about my life. This is called No One Thinks M. As I read about the construction of the Aqua Appia, I see a picture of a 3-tiered structure, which at a glance looks like a series of M's stacked on top of each other. Does anyone believe that M inspired the designing of the Roman aqueducts? Like them, M is composed of arcs terminated with vertical lines at the point of tangency. How the shape of the aqueducts took form is a mystery, like the formation of the letters of the alphabet, or the surfacing of this memory about my wife. After I help her into the tub, I hang her robe on a hook She ignores me and sinks slowly into her bath. I look at the beads of water on her brow. I see her hair floating off her shoulder, around her neck, and under her chin. How gently she closes her eye. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for coming today. When I go to this next poet's studio, we work on my podcast called Make Good Trouble. We don't get started right away because he's got to tell me about some movies that he's won awards for, some short films. He wants to ask if I've seen any of the films he's loaned to me on DVD. He's going to tell me the producer of the film and the other films he's made. He's somebody that could be teaching film at any university. He's so knowledgeable, and because of he just told me because of your example, coming here and doing Zoom for us, he's began to write poetry. But he's already a storyteller. His films have won awards in France, in the United States. He's an amazing storyteller. This is my brother, Alfred Williams.
Thank you for such a great introduction. I wanted to go near the beginning because I'm still very new at this, and I don't presume to call myself a poet, but like Jim said, I do feel that I can say that I'm a storyteller. So this is called 9 Minutes. My knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, 9 minutes with my knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, 9 minutes with my knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, my knee on his neck, 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes with my knee on his neck. Minute number 1, gonna have some big fun. Better than using a gun. Soon he'll be undone. Watching his eyes roll around in his head, wondering how long it's gonna take until he's dead. Minute number 2, his face is turning blue. Just a little bit more to do before he's through. I listen to him as he chokes, thinking to myself, this is a good joke. Watching his lungs expire like air out of an old tire. Minute number 3, make sure he knows that it's me that's taking his life away. Now begins the drama. I think he's calling for his mama. Minute number 4, I'm closing the door. My heart hardens as his life he begs for. He says he can't breathe, so I give him a little bit more of my need. Minute number 5, I can't believe he's still alive. He's twisting and he's turning and he's starting to cry. Come on, why don't you just die? Minute number 6, I'm up to my old tricks, turning warm bodies cold. I'll make sure this black man never gets old. Another black man calling for his mother. Minute number 7, I'm in a white man races heaven. It's a message to him and all his brethren. Next time you see me coming, you better get to running. Minute number 8, it's a matter of debate, whether or not you can feel my hate. Can you relate to the darkness in my soul? Minute number 9, I crush his life like grapes on a vine. Finally, it is time. I see all the signs of a limp body before me. His body. I've set his spirit free. My knee on his neck. My knee on his neck. 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes with my knee on his neck. My knee on his neck. My knee on his neck. 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 minutes with my knee on his neck. 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 9 minutes with my knee on his neck. No, that's it. I'm done.
Thanks for giving you a plaque.
Thank you.
He doesn't know I'm going to say this, but when January 6th was going on, he called me and he was weeping. And he told me that if the people that were storming the Capitol were black, they would have been handled much, much differently. And I think we all are aware of that too. So can we give some more love for Alfred Williams, please? Man, with a big heart. When a man's been teaching history for 2 millennium, he's got some experience. Welcome to the recently retired history professor, teacher, scholar. This is Chris Ernest Nelson.
Thank you, Jim. You know I love you. Thank you, Jim. Poetry is a magic language. I'm Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is Going Home. It was nearly March, and the willows were still bare. There was firm earth to break and seed to plant, but the wind would not ease its scouring sweep, and bitter rain shot like bolts through tattered scarves. The hard winter held spring captive, thrall to the doleful dark days, and an eager grasping cold. There was wet wood to cut with a worn axe, while the smoke of the last fire dropped low from the chimney. She had said her prayers when she crawled into bed. Yes, she said her prayers again while she slept. And she said them once more when her feet touched the floor, so early that faint dawn joined the fire's last winking ash. Life was hard. Her prayers floundered with the smoke. The angel was busy with other prayers in the village, where an old bachelor mumbled his faltering last words with his last breath, and as his candle snuffed, he died. Her prayers, long, humble, and pleading, settled into the dense air of her once closed room. They danced in and out of the sagging rafters. They occupied the furniture. They blessed each object in her diffident domain and ennobled their purpose. With a few sticks of kindling and 2 short logs, she stoked the tiny fire to life and put the kettle on. In her cooing voice, she sang a few lines of an old church hymn about going home, while she rubbed her arms and legs for warmth and comfort. The wind outside pulled at the walls while the cottage warmed. With bony hands bound thick with rags, she lifted the hot cup to her trembling lips, just as the tiny sun broke through the window frost to light her reverent face with the colors of gold and glory. Thank you. Still life. We delight in the ephemeral moments when perfection comes speaking through like a light in the window. See how the outside world is reflected in the glass, distorted like ghosts in some illusory dimension. Twisting images disguise the ambiguous confines beyond. The closed doors conceal bewildering secrets. Is there anybody there to apprehend how sly impressions invite wonder and allegorical shadows? Some specters have discreetly removed all the attributes left in place by others expecting guests, who anticipate the elemental moments when wry surprises confirm their magical expanding claims. Whatever those reflections may be, they possess so many seductive qualities. They invite our piercing curiosity. Thank you very much for listening.
If you came in a little late, you didn't hear the announcement, we are recording. And Alfred will make sure that he puts this on the internet. We want the audience here to be more than just the people in the room. And we think it's very important for the spirit of Jimmy Collins be carried into the poems that are being read and recited today. And we thank you for either social justice or existential poems that you have written, because that's what he was all about. I'm going to jump over to the Zoom. We have a professor from Baylor in Texas right now who has latched on to us, and we're so glad he has, because he reads in English and in Spanish. And so will you please all give a warm Second Sunday love to Julio Cesar Aguilar.
Thank you, Jim. I will read two poems in Spanish and English. Épica edípica. Desde lo profundo de alturas tantas, Edipo sangrante, íntimamente espiritual, como el sol de las tardes, cae como un cataclismo, como lo que cayendo viene frente a un temblor y no hay nada ni nadie que lo sostenga. Callada lágrima invisible y furia y grito en la tristeza resbalándose. Pero en la caída, qué figuraciones de otros reinos, mundos habitables, acaso al alba o al fin de todo, sorpresiva, y como siempre, la madre vuelva. Oedipal epic. Out of the depths of such dizzy heights, Oedipus bleeding, intimately spiritual. Like the setting sun, his fall cataclysmic, like what falls before advancing earthquake's tremor. Nothing and no one to hold him up, silent, invisible teardrop, and rage, and shout, slipping into sadness. But in his fall, such visions of other realms, inhabitable worlds, perhaps at dawn, or at the end of it all, suddenly, and as always, the mother will return. Asuntos de agua. Por la cortina larga de la lluvia miro cómo hasta la orilla húmeda de los silencios van cayendo los pájaros desde su canto. Ahora la música se encierra asustada tras los gestos enfurecidos del relámpago. Con truenos trata siempre de invadirla toda. Mucho más libres ya en su libertad, los pájaros aprovechan esta ocasión para escaparse. Mas pronto, el ritmo de su sangre los delata. Questions of water. Through the long curtain of rain, I watch how birds float falling from their song toward silence's damp shore. Now frightened music locks itself up tight after lightning's enraged gestures. The bolt always trying to break in with thunder. Much freer now, the birds at liberty take advantage of the situation to escape, but soon their beating hearts give them away. Thank you very much.
Julio is one of the poets. It's in the Activist Poetry Anthology. It is for sale over there. Joe and I decided that all the proceeds, after the publisher's costs are covered, go to the Border Angels and to the Friends of Friendship Park, where the Binational Garden was already plowed over once, bulldozed by the Border Patrol, and now they bought some plants back. The thing about the Border Patrol you need to understand is that as you look at the Friendship Garden, it's on both sides of the border. On the Tijuana side, the plants have 10 years of growth. On the United States side, they're just barely clearing the ground because they were bulldozed. And so the book is over there. If you'd like to participate in supporting what we're all about with the La Migra, who by law was supposed to listen to the border community's input about this 30-foot wall that they're building as I speak, and none of the community input was even considered. And so that's a Trump area wall that's going up. President Biden put a halt on it. The Supreme Court overturned that, and that wall's being built right now. And I think having a new Berlin Wall on this soil, on our soil, is unacceptable. So Julio, thanks for being part of the book. Can we give him some more love, please? And our next poet is a man who's also a musician. I've been to Talking Circle at he and his wife's house. It's an amazing experience of spirituality and of being able to express yourself and talk about the things in your life that you either need help with or the things you are helping. Please, let's everyone give a warm second Sunday welcome for my brother, Jack Smith.
It's like fishing.
Fishing.
I got one. I got a poet. Hello, family.
Gonna toss it back.
I love you all. Even AI likes me because they did that little poem that means that AI loves me. So we all have this dark place in our lives. Then we have beautiful, wonderful light places. The dark places are important. This poem is about the title, Mephisto. Yes, Mephisto, I will lounge with you and dine till the candles burn low and the fire's last ash whisks away. We will sing and share lost memories. You know me oh so well. We can walk with finesse through our garden at midnight, smell your fragrant roses, tasting fermentation of honeyed purple grapes left hanging on ancient vines. I will listen as your tongue slithers silently and you brag of decades spent with various unknown gods and how some unwillingly became your slaves, serving you throughout vast millenniums. I too have dark regions within my being. I need not remind you, for those rooms are filled with your memorabilia from ancient revivals, a lost renaissance, where your self-portrait hung in dank, silent hallways designed to confuse all those that dared enter, leaving them lost without chance of exit, no way to escape your unyielding, fatal grasp. However, on the morrow, my dear Mephisto, remember these words, I will defy you. Though I will not revile you, still without hesitation, I must openly fight you. I know your ways as you know mine, though this not be a war of two enemies, distraught by years of disagreements and hatred. Rather indeed, this be as the melee of brethren, fighting for the right to a promised throne.
Yeah.
A challenging chance to claim freedom and dominance and dwell within the confines of a peaceful liberation. I need not restate again to you, Mephisto, that I am born of the stars, the only power greater than your own. As meteors streak across the moonlit night, so was my visionary stance. I am hastened to a realization. All the universe is part of who I am. I am forever grateful property belonging to the oneness, to the eternal energy that form every living thing, itself, life, perpetual sunlights, bursting glow, always regenerative, cycles of light and darkness, revolutionary and revolving, life, death, rebirth. So come now, my confident friend with your story. Let us bid each other fare thee well. I see the light of day is now here, quite an alarming shyness. For an awkward eastern slope, no sleep for us today.
See,
Only a tear or two shed for
Lisa,
one
see.
another, a pat on the back
Lisa,
and a
see.
stern look as we gaze into the eyes of a promising future and draw our trusted battle swords. Thank you. This is speaking of asylum seekers and who in this country is a native to this country. Who is a native to every country? We're all part of this planet. We're all part of this earth. And yet we have to move around and we become asylum seekers and we become a source for people to put down. 9 minutes. So this poem is about asylum seekers. It's titled Little One. Little one, open your eyes wide, listen carefully. Remember as best you can. You are new to this realm. Everything around you will speak to you. Your mother holds back her tears. She needs to be brave for you. She knows your world is failing. She prays for your health. She would die before you if only that would help. Your father laughs and smiles. Afraid to let his emotions rule him, he knows a warrior must be strong. Yet you lie in your vomit, your body struck by fever, as your family must hastily move on. Many generations have come and gone looking for salvation. But as rivers wash over their bones, their lost dreams flow downstream. Only sounds of peaceful waters, singing birds and trees, serve as reminders this sympathetic peace may one day be yours. Little one, do you see those crumpled torsos? As vultures fill their bellies, do you understand the prices paid? So much sacrifice, looking for shelter, seekers of asylum must look ahead. Sad little one, sad, sad world, sad, 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 onlooking God. Thank you.
That's Jack Stewart Smith. Can we give him some more love, please? You go visit him in his lodge, in the backyard. He bought a little cottage for his work and a little cottage for his wife's work, the lovely Lonnie who's over here. Can you wave to everybody, please, Lonnie? And the shingles of those two cottages are kissing. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so we're gonna go back to Zoom, and Roger, Jimmy said what we would do for our features is after half the poets had shared, they've got the audience warmed up, then we'll have the feature coming up, so we'll have you come up pretty soon. Okay. Oh, that's Roger Aplon. Can we give him some love? He's our feature today. And Deborah Kay, are you reading poetry today for us?
No, I'm listening to poetry though, happily. Thank you. Some really great stuff.
All right, thank you very much for coming. Kat G, are you reading poetry today? And you are muted, ma'am?
No, I'm here just to listen. Thank you.
Okay, we'll charge the usual fee. Thank you all for coming. And Regina, are you gonna read poetry today?
Yes.
Well, would you introduce yourself? Because I don't know you.
Okay, can you hear me, Jim?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
This is-
terrific. Hi, Jim. Hi, Joe. I'm here in San Diego in Point Loma Ocean Beach, and I'm reading from the 16th edition of San Diego Writers Inc., A Year in Ink. The poem's title is Bite Me. God could, if he, she, it, they wish to, bring back paper drinking straws, the kind that one could bite with anxious teenage teeth until the end looked like a wad of sanded gold. And one reason to perform such a miracle by him, her, it, they, is that paper drinking straws, as they slide into a cold lemon Coke on a September day just after school, when four trolling for boys, girls, suck and bite and tear at the world with their fine, expensive, wired teeth, would show that the world that they had made their mark on yet another year, 1952.
Reggie, I apologize. I do know you. And do you have another point for us, or is that it?
That's it today, Jim.
All right, well, thanks for coming.
You made her mark. Good girl.
Two brain cells left from the 70s. That's all I've got to say. Okay.
Huh, how many people here?
When you come to Second Sunday, I think you can tell that there's a lot of respect that goes on here, and that the people that come here, they're very serious about writing. And we have seasoned poets here, and we have beginners, but they're very, very serious. Michael Turner Ortega is a young man who's a Vietnam veteran. He at one time was a door dancer. Those are the Native American veterans that open up the powwow. He lives right behind me, and I get to hear him talk to his wife 24/7. And in every sentence he's addressing her, he calls her dear. And I think that's very special. This is Michael Turner Ortega.
I have so much gratitude for all my dear friends.
Thank you.
This one poem today. At the intersection of my narrative, in between a mockingbird and the wind, from a made-up language empowered through and through, maybe even immortal, living from a series of small curiosities, therein lies a peaceful transfer of power. Blindsided, standing alone with the color of sound in a turbulent world. Periodic breakers overhead, empowered spoken words delivering a great rhyme. Somewhere between a miracle and complexity, traveling south with a new life in front of me, becomes an educator to the impoverished and other outcasts who live on the edge with its order in the scheme of things. Keep in mind, it sounds a little ridiculous to jump into the multiverse like that in a collection of circles with unexpected elements that make chemical reactions unreliable, kindly, because there's always something to love.
Yeah.
I listened to Wednesday night, BBC. The name of the show is called Unexpected Elements, so that had to be a poem.
I have a shout out to do. I'd like to introduce you a lady who's the mother of 2 children, a freelance writer. She is the author of Apollo's Fault for Leisure Books. She also has had over 2,000 nonfiction articles published in numerous historical articles in national and regional publications, including Writer's Digest, Woman's Day, and Arizona Highway. She's a former columnist for the San Diego Union Tribune and editor of the Nutrition Business Journal. She was the winner of the Best Historical Article by the National Federation of Press Women and Best News and Feature Articles by the California Press Women. And so Miriam Rafferty, would you wave to everybody? She's in the very back. And I want you to know I took a course from her back when I had hair. I was thinking about being a journalist, and she just gave the best class. And what's the name of your show on KNSJ? So tune in to KNSJ and East County Magazine. And when is the show on, please? All right. So anyway, can we give her some more love, please? Because she's been amazing. Thank you for coming. All right. I think it might be time for our feature. Are you ready for the feature?
Yeah.
All the way from Barcelona, all the way. We're interviewing tomorrow on my podcast, Make Good Trouble. He's a man who has lived in Barcelona, New York, and San Diego. He just did a expose article on the Supreme Court. Very knowledgeable, but an amazing poet. He has a journal that he publishes regularly. And some of the people in the room have been in that journal. Please welcome Roger Aplon.
Thank you, Jim. Nice to see you all. Great to be back here. I didn't come from Barcelona this time, but I did come from New York, where the air is something you do not want to breathe. He came to us with blood on his hands, wearing a lion's face and carrying a small boy's corpse in a linen sack. He came with a lunch of black bread and brie, 2 clean shirts, and a calico cat with 1 crushed paw. He'd come to bury the boy and begin again in the South, where he'd been told women were chaste and spirits thrived. He's made a home above the ancient theater. Some say out back, he's begun a garden of fungi and herbs. Others claim he's been seen late at night leaving the widow Mary's or the widow Carlotta's or maybe the widow Justine's. When I see him, as I often do, he's striding book in hand across the plaza or resting on his steps, leisurely plucking a rusty silver-tone guitar. There are those who speak of the third man, he who can coax the impossible, who dares us to scale the heights, who will come between us and the river below, between us and the conflagration, between us and interminable fear. I will not challenge the believers or those who are not. They're entitled, as am I, as is the mystery I celebrate, as evocative as snow, as instructive as silence, as appealing as a dappled mare, running for all she's worth, bent on triumph and escape over the hedge to the place unknown, a mere heartbeat away. And about another seer, about Tiresias, taken from a Jason Robinson musical composition. Jason, who was a San Diego native, a saxophone player, composer, and now teaches at Amherst in Massachusetts, wrote a piece called Tiresian Symmetry, and this is number 7 of 7 parts. You say the future lies buried in the past, that only the blind one in the well can tell. And here the lines begin. A sailor home from the sea, a king about to lose his throne, the crone with one good eye, supplicants and maidens alike, they all come. Remember me to your mother, he whispers, out of the sea and into the mountains. Decade after decade, there's no escape. The pleasure you receive from a man's body is your right. Men are such empty vessels. Here, sweep me up in your big, strong arms. Take me to the top. Remember, you were born to heal the sick of heart, those degraded by love, tortured and torturer. One man's curse is another's salvation. How many years has it been? Have you had enough, O wise one? And here the tale turns dark. There's a hole in the scrim through which the witches wander, one with bloodshot eye, the other on her knees in pain. It's plain to see, if you ever can again. The punchline is coming soon. You must learn to trust history. Hear them? Hear the mumblers and the fumblers? They follow you like starved cows. It's your story. Tell it now and tell it well. Be a bench for the water. I'm reading this tonight because there's a note I want to make about it. It's based on Ken Burns' film, The Central Park Five. You might remember the Central Park Five young black men accused of raping and beating a woman in Central Park, and it ended up in jail for 7 to 12 years, only to be released and exonerated finally. Well, it turns out that Yosef Stalin is one of those men and is now running for the city council of New York City, unopposed. And this poem is a reminder of what it felt like for me to watch this film. You be the defendant, I'll be the axe. Ours will be the perfect union, an exquisite wedding for the gloved hands that clutch the quips and pain, for the politicians and their prosecutors. Yes. Before long, you'll wake in your own vomit and shit, and all you'll remember is darkness, sweat, and rats scratching. Like swaddled mummies, you'll have no voice, no eyes, and no chance for redemption. Lost in the cogs of the machine, remember, 12 years. We be gone 12 years. Who can you trust? Not the Axeman, no. Not the jury, no. Not the disjointed scales of justice run amok, no. Pray for us, Mother. Pray for them too. Pray for us all. The state is on fire, and no one will carry water to douse the flames in those blood-soaked buckets. Every year, the Lakota Sioux in South Dakota remember Wounded Knee by having their scouts go around and follow a path that would have been a path of their ancestors. And this is based on a photograph that a friend of mine took, 40 below zero, on that, looking for the men who were on that pursuit. And this is a little intro to the lives of the tribe. It begins with arrogance and thrives on deception. It prospers on lies, is buried in blood. It is our history, the way west. In this photo, she's framed the 4 dark horsemen against the dense white sky, mounted and masked against minus 40 degrees. They search for the route of tribute, the trail to their ancestors who lay frozen where they'd fallen, finally buried en masse on the hill above the creek. No song, no names, no stone. Across these plains on the res, there's suspicion and watering eyes, starvation, addiction, and suicide. Today, there's a stillness on the plains. These 4 are alone, and their stiffness makes their horses skittish. Ice clings to their lips. They stomp the frozen turf, pick up the desiccated snow. Sorry, I'm a little dry. This is a little different kind of poem. This is a poem that my friend Chris Van Noy seemed to like in the past, so I'm going to dedicate this reading of it to him. It's called Wrestling. This is a found poem in the voice of Sandy Bull, who was about to recite a piece and play a piece, but he introduced it this way. Just in case I didn't mention, I'm from Florida, home of the Seminole, mostly bullshit and gators. You drive the swamp, see big boards advertising the prime bouts. It's the fact celebrates these parts. Wrestling gators, a one-time thrill, no shit. Got dudes in town walking around and half their skin beats cockfights and bullfights all to hell. Well, I'm going to do this tune about wrestling gators. That always reminds me of another story about being back home for the cure, drugs, and all that shit. I'm in this center, see, where this dude jacks off every morning about 5 a.m., wakes the whole damn place, humping and hollering like he's possessed. I swear to Christ, he never even used his hands, just humped the goddamn bed, rubbing right through the sheets like none else was even there. Now, I don't put down jacking off. In fact, I wish we was all that free. No, it's that noise, all that thrashing around, almost like he's pained or scared. Yeah, like you got it, like wrestling gators. Thank you, Chris. And a complete change of pace. This is called a dressing gown. It may have once embraced the moist and perfumed skin of a Japanese geisha as she plucked the strings of her samisen and sang praises to her prince. It may have served as the leisure robe of a dark Tahitian goddess as she tempted the passions of a lusty sailor from Lisbon or Marseille. Its green satin sheen may have graced the long, lean body of a fiery courtesan from Barcelona or Paris or Marrakesh. And who will know and who will come to tell? Today, it hangs in the privacy of my bedroom, where my lover comes to treat me to her unique and eager style of love. And when she slips it, oh, so slowly from her shapely shoulders, it colors my dreams with its red and yellow peacocks and pheasants and soaring hawks. And as she straddles my mouth and treats my lips to her exposed sex, I hear the peacock scream and feel the hawk's breath in my ear. And it's then I roll her on her back and ride into the night, remembering the light and tawny lovers of the earth and the dreams each has shared with each. A wet afternoon recalls the image of a small boy riding his bicycle with wet newspapers to deliver to a home
Jim.
where they're soon trashed.
Andrew.
And in the
Alex
next lane,
Alicia.
on another
Michelle.
wet afternoon, he's driving a grocer's truck, and the load is lettuce and roast beef. And we find him in bed with a girl who is wet and knows more than he about wet afternoons, and rolls over to show him how. And a winter goes by, and another, and in a thunderstorm, he's sweating under a canoe in Wisconsin when Diane offers her hand and her wet mouth, and it's 10 years later, and he and Julia are driving through mist to the mountain and the rainbow that is their final run at hope. And today, on this wet afternoon, he's no longer a kid and shuffles his collection of photos to find the one of her under the umbrella, and how wet she could be on any day or night when the fire crackled and Noche the cat curled on their hearth. And it ends here with an empty bottle and a loaded gun. And when the rain comes again, it will just be rain and no place to run. War leaves the men and women who fight it torn in ways we will probably never know unless we've been there. The next couple of poems are about men who have suffered that. This is called Letter to Sophia, and it was written during the Bosnian War. I should have known, even before the wind had shifted and the stench of flesh on fire peeled sweat from walls, from the whistling in my ears, the resonant whack of cracking spines, bodies rotting in the road. I should have hocked my gun, torched my fatigues, joined your neighbors for the long march out. Instead, and I tell you this with chalk in my mouth, I drank with the rest, took my turn in the teenage girls, forced the sons to do dog to their mothers. Yes, all this I did, and more. I should have known when my beard turned white, when men were forced to bite the balls from their brothers, when I prayed for rain to wash semen, shit, and tears to the sea. You would never take me as I was, never kiss my eyelids with your tongue as you did, never slip your cool hands under my shirt, press your cheek against my naked back, never again trust me to be clean. There are three more. This one is about a man who suffers the same. It's called You Sent Me to Kill or Be Killed, and it begins with a quote from the New York Times. Staff Sergeant Robert Bales, the enigmatic figure at the center of the worst war crime in recent memory, admitted for the first time on Wednesday, deliberately killing 16 Afghan civilians last year, most of them women and children. Critics of America's decade of conflict in the region seized on the stresses experienced in the war by soldiers like Sergeant Bales. It's late. Night hangs heavy in Kandahar province. Scorpions, woodlice, a mantis preys. Staff Sergeant Robert Bales injects his nightly dose of anabolic steroids, buckles up his gear. 4 tours in 10 years. No time to reminisce, no time to dream. He's careful to climb down the ladder reserved especially for him. At the bottom is the pit. Dung beetles scurry. His head throbs. You've seen your buddies' shredded bodies baking in the desert sun, babies dangling dead from barbed wire, a woman blown to clots and bones by the bomb she'd wrapped around her waist. The medics say PTSD. The lawyers say booze and drugs. Tonight, Robert dreams mayhem. Spirits of the brave and lost will cross the Devil's River. He's locked and loaded. Night goggles and high-octane wild turkey, 101 proof. My enemies are everywhere, in their tents, behind their walls, in their gardens, and in their beds. They babble in tongues, sneer and wail. I need silence to think. My throat chokes on our renegade soup. There's nothing to be done. Extermination. I am the champion of justice, the avenger and the priest, locked and loaded. Bless me, Father, for I am a missile unleashed and proud, a drone in desert camouflage. I've been sent to redeem my country's honor. I am without home, without mercy, without guilt. Pray for me as I kneel in the sand and light my torch. Nothing is left of me. I am slag. I am heroic. I am disaster. See me for what I am, for what I have been trained to be. I am a machine running on fumes. Nothing matters. The mission is at hand. How many must die and why? I am marked, stirred, without guile. A bomb, fused, as intended, poison, catastrophes. Collateral damage, it is. I am what must be known, what must be expected. I've read this before, and this is, I think, an appropriate poem to read after the last one called Ukraine 2022. And then I'll close with a short piece. It begins with a question: what is it eviscerates morality, invites the birth of a beast, where a taxi driver, plumber, or an accountant once lived a humane life? The first was a young boy. The doctors registered him as unknown number 1. Time magazine, when war comes home. I'm here, room 32. I removed the shrapnel from his chest and legs and arms, and now I insert a breathing tube and crank up the machine to do the work. I've been here 36 hours and am headed home to the subway where my mother and sister crouch among their slim necessities, paper to clean themselves, water, toothbrush, blanket. I'm here too, says my daughter, now 6. She has a doll, pink shoes, a Minnie Mouse barrette, and a CD player that's run out of juice. She hopes for a night when she can dream of summer. I am an anonymous soldier. Before I was a candy maker. Today we lifted an old man across the gap to the arms of his shuddering wife of 50 years. They carried bread and a Bible. I've shot men and watched them die. Once our brother Slavs, they've come to war, and worse, they've slaughtered our innocents, stacked them like cordwood, left us the vacant stares of women raped by squads of men, left babies decapitated and strung like cords from street signs and lampposts. Our killers' corpses lay stiff and broken in the ditches. Once, husbands, fathers, sons, and lovers like us, just like us. Who can say what it is, eviscerates morality, invites the birth of a beast, where a taxi driver, plumber, or an accountant once lived a humane life. And last, this is the piece I wrote in Barcelona. There was a young man who fit the description of the character described and the feelings I had. It's called At the Side of the Road. He waits with torso naked for the passerby to see and touch if they dare. This man, yoked with a gnarled hump and twisted frame, who comes day by day to offer himself as the least of us, to remind the strong of the lost, the violent of the humble, the proud of the weak. And though the air is brittle and the ground is wet, he comes with cup in hand and alone, as are we all, who wait for our bus that will soon arrive, and with it, the inescapable and most perfect fact: we are bound to a future we know not and will only taste once. Thank you.
That's Roger Aplon. Can we give him some more love, please? Jimmy Collins was really specific about at Second Sunday, we need to support the community, the artist community. So he has his books over there. You hear how he writes. Listen to this experience, please. Now, this is going to be on the internet as well. That's why I want to read this to you, because I'm reading it to whoever might be watching this during the week. Born in Chicago, Illinois, Roger Aplon was the founder and managing editor of Chicago's Choice magazine with John Logan and Aaron Siskind. He's had 13 books published, one of prose poems and short fiction, Intimacies, and 12 of poetry. Most recently, The Omnipotent Sorcerer, Burn Baby Burn, and the Beethoven Project. And I was looking for film clips to show, to advertise his featuring today, and a lot of the Beethoven's project poems are on YouTube, so you can look those up if you want. Many of his poems confront social and political injustices and conflicts, while others reflect his interest in documenting the quotidian of the lives he's lived and the places he's lived in. Given his love of jazz and experimental music, he often reads his work with musicians from the avant-garde ensembles Wormhole in Yokohama and Tokyo, Japan, and Tumor Flora Collective, San Diego, California. In the course of his long career, he's been awarded many prizes and honors, including an arts fellowship from the Helene Wurlitzer Foundation in Taos, New Mexico. After an 8-year writing retreat in Barcelona, Spain, he now makes his home in Beacon, New York, where he edits and publishes a poetry magazine, Waymark, Voices of the Valley, and is at work on revising an earlier collection, It's a Mother's Day. You can read and hear examples of his work at www.rogeraplon.com. Can we give him some more love too? Well, I think, Michael, are you, Michael wanted to say some things about you as well. This is Michael's turn.
Yeah. Days. Oh.
So back in the 90s, and I started.
Ooh.
When I started writing poetry, Chris Benoit was taking me to poetry workshops all the time. And there was one that I'll always remember because my parents were beatniks. And so I went to a beat poetry workshop run by Roger Aplon, and I always remember that experience. He brought me home. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. We need to bring that back. I know.
You ready for some more poetry? Are you getting your money's worth? So we thought this man was a tennis professional, then we thought he was a golf professional, but he's really a poet. This is Alistair McLeod.
Yeah,
Ladies, can you play tennis? I love you. Hey, I'll wait.
Well, always a privilege and a pleasure to be here. I've recently been exposed to literature that I have never encountered before because I work with students, and I'm working with a kid at the University of Chicago who's taking these extraordinary courses in sociology, and I have not read much sociology. What I've learned is that Emil Durkheim thought religion was a way of communicating to individuals what society demanded of them without their realizing what was going on. It seems like an extraordinary idea to me. Max Weber thought that the spirit of capitalism arose from people's anxiety in the face of the doctrine of predestination, that they might not be predestined. There's no way of knowing. I did not know these strange ideas were the roots of our culture. And then various things have come to mind recently, which I'm thinking, where did this come from? And I just happened to be reading Freud's introductory lectures on psychoanalysis. And the main message there is there are no accidents. Everything that you say and do proceeds from the unconscious realm. So you are very lucky that I'm not going to sing "Drop Kick Me Jesus" through the goalpost of life. But it's not going to be that. Where that came from, what unconscious yearnings that arose from, I have got a clue, and that is the raison d'être of my poem, and then there will be a song. Yeah. So permits me the time. So
I walked the park and looked for nothing, when there tumbled through the air a single monarch butterfly, red and black and unaware. My friend, I cried, whence comest thou and whither bound? No answer came, nor could there be. Her maker made her not to speak. Had she a voice, she'd yet been mute, bewildered, silent as am I. Nothing to say, no testament, no query, and blessedly, no lie. Once she danced in joyful thousands amongst the mirthful milkweed pods, knowing nothing, heeding nothing, plant a seed of carefree gods. She's now alone, companionless, bereft, on sterile soil abandoned, innocent but yet in pain. I would be one with her in sympathy, for we're both aliens on the plain. Were she to ask, could I tell her from whence I came? No, I could not, were I to myself be true. Much less I'd have a word for where I'm bound. I wish I knew. What I do know, as she cannot, is that nature has betrayed her and her lovely kind. And I know further, this my direful lot, that nature's hand is none but mine. Last time I was here, I recited a poem that sprang from a lot of pain and anguish, and I thought, oh my God, I can't come out and impress all these people like this. Gotta think of something. So that poem is really about, the condition the world is in so many respects. This is really very frightening. And it's getting to me in ways I hadn't allowed it to get to me before. How does one operate in a world in which doom seems inevitable? You can't just curl up and die. So how does one operate? So this is what came to me. I peeked in to say good night, and then I heard my child in prayer. Send for me some scarlet ribbons for my hair. All the stores were locked and shuttered, all the streets were dark and bare. In our town, no scarlet ribbons for the fair. Through the night my heart was aching, just before the dawn was breaking. I picked in, and on her bed, in gay profusion, laying there. Scarlet ribbons, lovely ribbons for her hair. If I live to be 100, I will never know from where came those lovely scarlet ribbons for her hair. That is that we are leaving this world to our children.
Yes.
And I don't know how to operate without believing in miracles. And I don't believe in miracles, but I don't know how to operate without believing in miracles. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah. Our next poet was the San Diego beat poet. Then he was the California beat poet. Then he was the United States beat poet. But please remember, do not offer him decaf. This is Chris Benoit.
Saturday, we're gonna have the Poets Tree Picnic. If you need any information about that, see me.
I see you.
Apocalypse. This is from the ending of my internet love affair. Soft drums of thought pound against us with weariness in this clearing where we sleep. Elusive morning shakes a tired night bound in unkept promises. Our dreams are troubled with myopic whispers. They bring us here to the edge of the forest where fires burn low and night seems perpetual. Quietly slipping from shadow to shadow, our spirits dance with forbidden dreams. Our waking only chases hope from this bed of scattered stars. Small stones of trust worn smooth with touching are turned over and over in our hands. We pass them between us. Their sad eyes speak of longing and forgiveness. They have no mouths to tell us what weights tomorrow will hang around our necks. Our tongues are dry with speaking, our brain drunk with unfocused in our spinning memories. Tomorrow's clouded vision burns the ruins of yesterday's peace. Incense of flesh, an empty skin grins and dances away, its laughter echoing against the distant mountains where we cannot follow. We scream across the river that has three sides. In its middle boils angrily, carries the carcass of our hope, some swelling near the shore, some swelling near the shore, where muddy water slows to shadows. The sun bakes them black red. The wild birds circle, knowing that the feast is yet to come, confident that the wind will bear them until after the danger is past. Calling to one another, we wave our fragile sticks against the sky, curse the dark presence above us, and drag the dead to shore, moving their limp forms into two separate fires on two separate shores. We burn them, weeping. Departure. We don't understand sometimes the things I do. When I launch myself like a rocket ship, thrusters on full, engines blazing, course charted, planned, plotted, calculated, and leave you behind to the static of my words, enveloped in my dreams. You think the galaxies of stars that separate us are infinitesimal, and that I don't feel the coldness here, where the night and day are only suns twinkling in a vacuum. You think that I don't know or care to know that you wait for me where the flowers do bloom. Life does have a cycle. I go to find tomorrow, for I must go, and I must find tomorrow through the coldness of space without you. I could have stayed and felt you warmly beside me, never alluding to or never speaking of or alluding to the empty place that cries out my name when I look up and stretch out my arms to find the answers that whisper in solar winds. They guide me now to another world away from you.
The poetry tree is really, I've been going there every year almost, and if you get a chance to attend, please do. Amazing people, amazing poetry, amazing food. And I think I had something else scheduled up in Oceanside with a poetry contest, and I crossed that out when he invited me. Please support our artists. Please go to the Poet Street. Support Chris. Thank you. Andy Palacino, are you going to read today, or are you just a civilian? I think you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, I'll read.
Okay, I'll put you down, buddy. We're glad you're going to read. He's the best teacher in Southern California, that guy. Carol Moscript, did I say that right? And did Moscript, and we decided that you would feature what month? In October, she will be our feature here. Please welcome Carol Moscript.
Hello, what a great group. I'm so glad I discovered you. Thank you, Jim, for helping me discover this. I have a little handful of portraits. The first one is a high bun, which many of you know is a paragraph of prose, followed by a haiku about that paragraph of prose. L'Oreal, because you're worth it. She shakes out a large sheet of cardboard, a sleeping mat. Then she proceeds to make her bed in the corner at the very end of the strip mall by a storefront church open only on Sundays or special days of elation. Then comes the low cardboard walls for privacy while lying down. Tiny dancer comes to mind, barefoot with small ballet feet, wearing blue patterned tights and a pink t-shirt. Her face is like that of a girlish elf. As I call her over, she begins to tell me she had that morning found a package of hair dye in a public trash can and had gone to a quiet gas station bathroom she knew and put the dye on her hair, rinsing it out with cold water. I can see a little ring of gray around her face before the fierce dark red color line appears. She'd had rags and a towel in her supermarket cart, so she'd managed the process, she explained. Thrilled with the result, she says to me, her face broad and pale and proud, I just hate that old gray. You look pretty, I respond. And in that moment she does, with her red hair and pink shirt. She looks ready to perform in a circus as an aerial artist. She is so light-hearted. I want to take her home and bathe her feet and feed her, but I don't. I just give her some money, for which she expresses gratitude. Trash can fine. She dyes gray hair red with cold water. Gas station mirror. Robin has a rusty iguana in a cage. Next to it, a caged parrot. Yellow mostly, with some green and red on wingtips and around the head. He will speak to you, she says. And Birdie seems unafraid, Mistress's third pet. Her Rottweiler, Hoochie, on a leash. Cages on top of her shopping cart stacked on neatly folded bundles. Rose wool for a blanket, royal blue and emerald green sheets, a golden quilt. She has few teeth, mouth sucked in, greasy brown hair knotted at the neck. She hoists her heavy body out of her low deck chair in the middle of her animal camp kingdom, established on the lawn of Burger King. See what I've already got for when I'll have an apartment someday, because I know when that happens, I won't have much money for things I'll need. She pulls back the curtain around the bottom of her shopping cart, a tiny microwave nesting there in a basket, and a few elf-sized pots and pans. The day will come, she smiles broadly, displaying her gums. Someday. And the last one, Jesus loves you. She was frozen. She was. The first time I saw her, down to the pavement, an earthen color, falling in vermeer folds, swiped with light in the mid-afternoon sun. Nests of shadows nestled in the curves of cloth. Her long skirt tells the story of her past. An open suitcase by her side, clothes crawling out of it onto the church lawn, all in dark colors, like a pathway of fading flowers. I gave her everything down to my last dollars. She held them in her hands as if the bills were the reins of a horse. Hollow cheeks, peppered hair. It was a tiny church where no one came except on Sundays. Her wardrobe dumped out as if up for grabs. She stood as still as the statue of Jesus behind her, waiting for him to come alive and embrace her.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks for coming. Our next poet I found out was a Lady Gator, and was going to a lot of her workshops under another name. She now calls herself Gilles Brisebois. So no, I really butcher that? Oh, next week. Get married. Please welcome Jill. Woo!
4 years.
Oh, yeah.
4.5 years.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Badonsky for another week. Nice to be here. This is called Driven. You write a sentence that paves a street where verbs and nouns drive their cars over the bumpy gravel of the first draft, traversing avenues that didn't exist before you started writing. The ride begins to smooth as you edit out awkwardness. A thought takes an off-ramp and brings an idea, who has an opinion, driving an emotion. So now the street starts winding, revealing the unknown map of your mind. You find yourself at the intersection of lost and found, but the words back up into a bottleneck because lost is a run-on sentence that goes nowhere. Some adverb sticks his head in your window and asks, "Do you want your windshield washed?" You roll up your window and ignore him. A large predicate is tailgating a little too close. You sideswipe a question and decide to run the light, but there's not enough words on the other side and you end up in a ditch, unharmed because there are no verbs yet written there to hurt. A cop on a motorcycle appears and asks for your registration and you tell them, "I'm the writer here, sir." And he says, "Well, you were writing recklessly. You almost hit a conjunction and there were kids on that street." And you say, "Sir, I wrote that street." And he arrests you for driving without punctuation. The judge gives you a sentence that you don't like. So you revise it with a new sentence. This one takes you sailing in a wave of vowels to rest on a capital on a faraway island, adjectives all very tropical, verbs wafting, and thirst quenched by a delicious noun. I don't know what poetry etiquette is. I read this one recently at Deborah's poetry reading, but this is my last week as a single person, so I'm reading. A single person lives here. I am sitting in the living room contemplating the yoga mat to the right of my chair. It remains there even after I complete the downward facing dog and the forward fold. No need to roll and store it. I live alone. I don't need to change habits that aren't in accordance with the good housekeeping seal of approval, ones that would bother another. The water pick is oddly stationed in the kitchen instead of the bathroom where many would decree it belongs. Cats are given permission to sit on the dining room table, like feline centerpieces, flaunting validated entitlement. A variety of socks have been recklessly dropped in various coordinates of the home, left for weeks in the cursive sock spelling of so. I can't imagine having to spend time removing dust bunnies from underneath the sofa, always putting coffee cups back, segregated symmetrically from the drinking glasses, having the romaine stationed in the crisper drawer when it looks more festive unpackaged on the second shelf, close to the things staring out of foggy green containers that have been in there too long. My time is better spent sitting on the back patio, noticing the sky, the blue slice above the telephone lines, ushering a cloud through on its way to evaporation. Or lying on the bed, rereading Only Cowgirls Get the Blues, with the little cat asleep on my legs and the big cat on the pillow beside me. A breeze dusts over my face. I don't fall prey to scolding myself or comparing myself to the ordered and exact because I decide I am serving an important purpose. I am illustrating that single people are artists simply by the way they order their mess and how they mess their order. Yes, their homes are actually art installations. The plaque on the exhibit would read, "An artist lives here." And the onlookers, the ones who are living by themselves, the ones I imagine are there observing this thoughtful masterpiece, nod and understand.
Now we go down, down, you go, Gators, down, go, Gators. Oh, that was really bad. Ooh, thank you for coming, Jill. Thank you very much. And now we have the Gators groom. This is Robin Breezewell. Welcome to Robin.
Take the mic out there. The Sunday morning after the carnival midnight, the paper cup sidewalks, the styrofoam parking spaces, lined with cigarettes and boxes of rain, linger in the dark sunlight, blinded. The spilled wine and piles of trash bags signal the onset of another maelstrom of drudgery and compromise, busyness, and deadlines in meaningless time in deadly pursuit of putting off the inevitable.
See why I love them. Absolutely.
Can't tell me what to do. The kimono-wearing vagabond dances a jig with the forthright butcher, who swings his cleaver without caution, without care, and severs the dreams of a swindling salesman. The gondolas whirl around the carousel and come loose and plow through the crowds on the midway. The fireworks display makes it all seem a distraction. Joe and Sandy are in love, and they can't feel a thing except the thrill and anticipation, the confusion and the elation, wondering what all this, all around them, is all about. The Venetian blinds painted stripes on the nicotine walls of the hazy motel room. Jenny was slouched on the sagging edge of the worn-out mattress in her faded negligee. John had just left to go back to his well-furnished suburban nightmare charade. He would be back next week, same time, same day. At least that's what he said. He left the money on top of the microwave. Jenny dreamt of coffee shops and friendly waitresses at the freeway Denny's. She stepped outside and leaned on the wrought iron rail of the motel balcony and lit a cigarette.
She watched the smoke writhe and wriggle in the still, hot afternoon air. She listened to the cars on the freeway and watched the palm trees swaying in the breeze like chorus girls. She counted the days till the rent on the room was due and divided it by the price of the sandwiches she could get at a discount at the deli down on Broadway. She figured she could turn enough tricks to take a day off before the end of the month. She thought about where she might go. Maybe she'll go to the zoo and look at the giraffes. She liked the way they moved. She would sit and watch and let herself be mesmerized by them, the way they seemed to move in slow motion. Or maybe she'll take the bus to the beach. She could spring for the fair, and the extra time it took to get there was just time spent not having to do what she did to get by. She might read a book, but she'll probably just listen to the music on her headphones and watch the city go by, framed by the window on the bus. She liked it when someone else did the driving. She could just daydream her dreams, kind of like the way she got through her sessions with her clients. Jenny could go into zombie mode at the drop of a 20. And her biological clock was set to start making snarky talk when monkey time was up. That was what kept the money flowing. That was the skill she had developed as a professional ragdoll. She thought about what other type of work she might be good at, knowing what she knew. The girl at the front desk at the unemployment office didn't seem to have anything on her.
6 of our 16 poets today have been features here. Can we give them some love, please? We have family. We definitely have family.
Tripod is off the platform. There you go. Thank you.
Now, since she's been so nice to me, she was one of those 6 features. Please welcome Jan Gift.
Yeah. There it is. Always a nice person to see when you're walking.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I wrote this starting in 1985 and finished it in 2002. Asking the question of who am I anyway? Element. I am of that element of seeker from ages past, who live to find the inner wells of universal truths. We live to find, then manifest what existed before existence, compelled to find and then express the meaning of existence. We come to life to live in flesh, to taste, smell, touch, to sing, speak, show, to manifest, materialize, to translate into earth song that which is. Isness wants to fulfill itself on this level of Mother Earth, this level of human depth and tenderness. And so we come and grow into channels of translation and externalize and internalize and discover what we knew pre-birth and post-death. Woman, water. Who is the woman walking toward water along long, dry, winding trails through scrub brush, or long, wet, winding trails through jungle, or long, climbing, winding mountain cliffs? Who is this woman walking to gather water in her clay or tin or plastic jug? A woman carrying from a far hut or tent or shack, step by step. Is she thirsty herself to gather water, to carry it back on her head, back to her stove, her babies, her work, her home? Who are you, my sister? What are your thoughts as you walk your distances and kneel to gather from pool or river or spigot? And what are you feeling and needing and planning, carrying the sloshing weight, returning, balancing the precious weight, pressing your head while your spine lengthens with the dignity of your gifts? I wrote this during the Kavanaugh Supreme Court malarkey. And here you go. Their rules. You fight so hard against their suppositions of their ownership of the world and their right to own it and run it and make the rules and break the rules while they pretend to keep their rules, while they break their rules, while they say that you are breaking the rules, which they say they created to keep you safe, while they do those things against you, while they say they did not and would never, because after all their rules are sacred and fair, and they are fair, and the world is yours too, except there are these rules that you should not have broken by saying that they broke them, which they did after they made them. And you fight so hard to catch your breath while trying to follow the rules they made, rules meant to harm you, including this rule of theirs, that you must not believe that they did break their rules when they did, while they say they did not. And all the while, these rules sit in the air you breathe, so you can't catch your breath. And you fight so hard just to breathe that you find it very hard to imagine trying to speak, which would be breaking their rules. Strong, all the ways, many, that I have been strong and well, still live in my body. I will now no longer make myself small to any. I will have all my strong selves tell.
That's Jan Getz. Can we give her some more love, please? That's not gonna be on CNN, that's gonna be on the internet, so I'm glad you came. That's really nice stuff. Oh, man. Our next poet.
I'm
comes to
assuming
my
there's only
workshop,
one back
Saturday
there.
Writers Week workshops, and she lights up the room with her poetry. She gives really supportive feedback, and I'm always glad to have her in one of my classes. This is Donna Castaneda.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. This is my first time. Jim told me to come. So let me just start out by, I'm going to read, the first one I'm going to read is, I just want to say about it that I come from a large family of 7 children, and I'm the second to the oldest, and I'm always happy that I have an older brother who remembers more than me. Somebody. Okay. It's called Memories We Can't Keep. My brother told me how in 1962, he peeked from behind a door and saw our parents one night laughing with their friends and dancing the twist in the living room. When we are both gone, that memory will be in one of the boxes of old pictures thrown out because no one will be left to want it. No matter how many winters pass, the snow on gravestones is silent. The kitchen calendar flaps in the breeze of a ceiling fan. A Mexican dove coos outside the sink window. It's still summer. My second poem, I just want to mention, I lived for about 30 years in Imperial County, which is just east of here. And it is in the Sonoran Desert. So the desert is always entering into a lot of the poems I write. But anyway, this poem is entitled Prehistory. Desert sunsets are grand theater. The sweep of orange, red, and lavender drapes a horizon stage. When the curtain closes across black hills, dusty chollas, manzanita bushes, I applaud, if only in my head. Remember my beauty, not its opposite, the desert says. I will. Right now, an abstraction of light trickles through sheer curtains at my apartment window. I hear sounds of trash trucks, cars starting, a faraway dog bark. The plane trees perk up. Bird of paradise flowers, transplants like me across geologic times. Lift straighter their orange and purple spikes. Grass blades, still brilliant green in the Southern California world, twirl, anticipating warmth. It's not here yet, but the grainy light says to me, remember my survival, not its irony. For 10 million years, I remember I have nothing else.
Our next poet has helped with the Friends of Friendship Park. She was able to take the Poets Bench and move it to, the name of it now is?
Cypress Grove.
Cypress Grove Poetry Reading. And that's the last Sunday of each month. We read together down at the Playas, the beach before between the Tijuana San Diego border, against this border fence that they're building. And she is someone who is an artivist and an activist, and just really a hell of a poet. It's an honor to have her on this microphone. This is Deborah Ramos.
Hi, everybody. I want to say thank you to everyone who came to our. Right, okay. The electric room reception on Friday night and poetry reading. It was a packed house, and it was awesome. So thanks everybody for coming. And that art show, it was awesome. Chris was there, and Jill was one of our poets. It was featured 10 women artists and poets, and it was really fun. So that show was going to run all the way through the end of September down at Inspirations Gallery, San Diego Writers Inc., and Liberty Station. So
Barrack 16.
Hmm?
It's at Barrack 16.
Barrack 16. So check it out. Okay, so this poem I'm going to read is Pat Andrus, and I went to their poetry legacy, and we were learning and studying and reading Sappho, and then we did a free write. So I'm going to read Pat's first because it was really cool. I think there's only fragments of her poetry. It was really fun. So Pat says, an unfragmented fragment. Grow me a spirit of almond eyes, limbs muscled, and hair black, strong. Give me your garland of grapes and hyacinths. Out of your sky's song, I, shadow woman, no more. You, sun raw poem. That's Sappho stuff right there. And this is what I wrote. I used some words and fragments of the poems by Sappho. So this is what I did. In the dripping of my pain, I drum you from the fair moon. Your radiant form embraces my lips, my skin, my lotus center. And suddenly, anguish becomes a honey-ripe yearning, a delicate trembling, in your opalescent light.
Thanks for coming out. If you missed that womb show, it was just amusing. It was really good. It was really good. Okay. All right. Sue Taylor has the electric picnic on KNSJ. Sue Taylor is a wonderful host for that show that gives interviews, poetry, and I hope that she'll be on the air for much, much longer. Please welcome Sue Taylor.
Thank you, Jim. So I am the host of the Electric Picnic. It runs 3 times a week on KNSJ 89.1 FM, and the SJ in KNSJ stands for social justice. So you're bound to hear some awesome poetry. If you don't like my poetry, let me tell you that my guest poets are some very esteemed poets here sitting in this room. Chris Vanoy, Jim Moreno's been on the show, Jack Stewart, Deborah Ramos, Chris Nelson. Who am I forgetting? And so I would just love you to see me after the show, and please consent to be a guest poet. All you do is 54 minutes of interview and reading, and then I wind up the show. But I also have had the Supreme Court on my mind. And so let me get this straightened up. I'm doing this on my phone. I like haiku, so I wrote some haiku that are my versions of some social justice indignation. I'll start out here. Conservative court order. Red robins banned from the bird bath. Pigeons in the square prohibited to pet because they're the minority. Kangaroos sued the tigers for not planning their wedding. No pouches allowed. Bar closed for slamming doors on men with fingernail polish. 3 couples at the park, bothered by adults in black robes. Ruts in backwater roads stop wagons of justice. High court rules, dumb as country sheep. Mass shooting faces, once shiny pennies in a jar, outside the jar, tarnished. Last one, I'm going to read you a couple of long poems. Here's a lyric poem called "The Earth is a County Fair."
Was he still there?
The Earth is a county fair. Rocky Mountain roller coaster. Venetian aquariums. Tulips to the air. Baby animals hide in haystacks. They race against Eastern Bloc piglets. Win a goldfish in a bowl. Step out into the Milky Way. Ride a Swiss cuckoo clock Ferris wheel. Splash in Amazon river boats. Get foot massages on board a mocked ocean liner bound for the Indian Sea, foaming with turmeric coconut curry. Eat Oreos deep fried in the Panama sun. Children reach for brass rings that linger around the pyramid of Giza. The fair has river rock water rides and mock ocean liners that fly the Indian Sea. Win a teddy bear among the reindeer in Finland. Come home with unnecessary floor mops made in Belgium. Free admission every summer to her grandstand. The Earth is a county fair. Now, one more poem, I guess this is prose poetry. It's called Settled. We've settled into the couch, flattened ourselves on the floor like our dog at the end of the day. We used to make decisions. Choose that, go there, buy this, dine here. Now we're older, slightly tired. We enjoy a larger bed, have discussed it many times, knowing darn well that a king-size mattress in a hotel is heavy. But then it would have to fit up the stairwell. And why not get new carpet when we have the chance? But that would cost money. We settle back into the couch, make excuses for not going to the beach, just gave the dog a bath. Too many aggressive dogs there, so much traffic. We're flat on the floor, deciding not to do a happy hour. My eyes are dry and the wind will irritate them. Their beer isn't that great, not much of a discount. We're going to eat out tomorrow night anyway. Seems like since we had COVID, our vim and vigor are flat tires hanging on our hips. They ached with the virus. Things still taste of Paxlovid metal. We'll ask each other each morning, how'd you sleep? Not bad, or not that well. We've settled into liking the old queen-size mattress. It's still in good shape after all. A new one? We'll sleep on it. I'm good. Nothing happy.
Mr. Paliciano, are you ready to tell us about your new book and read a couple poems, sir?
Yes, I am.
This is Andy Paliciano.
Okay. All right. My new book is called Revolutions Night and Day, and it's a collection of night and day poems with art also that mirror the rotation of the earth. And since it's, I think women's rights is kind of a theme, I want to read these two poems. This one's called Amanda Gorman. Mary Wollstonecraft was in the same writing circle as Thomas Paine. They wrote at the foundation of our nation about rights, dreaming of what the world could be. Mary Wollstonecraft wrote A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, and Thomas Paine would write The Rights of Man. Mary Wollstonecraft dreamed that women would be equal to men if they were given the chance to be educated. Niceties at the time said it was impolite for women to get educated. Mary Wollstonecraft died from complications from giving birth to Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley would later write Frankenstein, indirectly because she felt like a monster for her mother dying to give birth to her. But this monster, a woman educated and bright in a dim world, was not a tragedy. When Amanda Gorman read her poem at the inauguration of a president, she was a descendant of slaves, whose rights were those of man. She was a woman governed by love and not a monster. The monster of Frankenstein found what this young poet found, that love is kind and stronger than monsters. And I want to read one more. And if you ever saw the movie Temple Grandin is one of my heroes. She had autism and really changed the world in a great way and still continues to. But she sings this song at her graduation of her high school graduation where she was valedictorian. But you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, this is called Monsters. Mary Wollstonecraft dreamed of a land where women weren't just quaint and beautiful, but educated and bright. Women were in their sewing rooms and keeping proper. Thoughts had grown stale in these sewing and powder rooms. Sitting on a couch, Mary felt it was time for a change and got up and stepped out of the powder room in an impolite way. It was dark at the time and there were no stars. She heard a voice sing, "And don't be afraid of the dark." Gaining courage, she picked up a torch at the castle door. She made her way in the blackening twilight. She felt alone and heard the same voice say, "You'll never walk alone." Mary gained courage and walked down the road of leafless trees. She saw a monster ahead. It was walking toward her. Mary saw a baby lying in a crib on the path. She picked up the baby and held it. The monster came closer. Suddenly, she heard the voice of many women in the thicket. They sang an otherworldly song. Mary knew from the voices that the monster would eat the baby if she did not offer herself up for a meal. She put the baby down with the torch nearby so she would be found. And Mary stood with 1,000 female voices and walked into the darkness. Thank you.
And you tell everybody how they can order your book, please?
Okay, yeah, it's on Amazon or Barnes and Noble online and Powell's Books. So yeah, if you go to Amazon, it's kind of like you have to type in books in the category. It doesn't come right up under my name, but yeah, it's $15 on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Powell's Books.
Tell us the name of the book one more time.
Okay, it's called Revolutions Night and Day. And this is the cover. It's got a picture of the Earth cover.
Got about 20, 25 people in the room, but this is being recorded and it'll be on the internet. So we hope you sell some books, Andy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jim. I hope so.
How about some more love for Andy?
Thank you.
Number one substitute teacher in Southern California. Everybody hanging in there? Everybody all right? Well, we have a surprise poet musician coming up. I wrote a poem called Encounter in Reno, and it's about a sculpture I saw in downtown Reno of a woman who was a wire mesh sculptor and full of big, big stones that were pulling her down like this. And I was getting training to help Native American women who were in domestic violence or survivals of sexual assault. And I wrote this poem. And then Dolores asked if she could back me up on keyboards. And we performed that poem many, many times. It makes the poem much stronger. And she's going to come up here and she's going to show you why. This is Dolores Fisher.
Well, hello, brothers and sisters. How are you? Most of the poems I brought require much more energy. I brought some old poems that are like 10 years old, and my body was way different 10 years ago. So I thought maybe I'd lead us in a sing-along. Yeah. Especially since we've been talking about social justice, and we've lost several members of the social justice community. One who started out with this well-known song. And so my musicians, and I know I have singers, and if you can drum a beat, you can, but I'll just start it out. And you sing, daylight come, and I wanna go home. Okay, that's all it is. Now, are we ready?
Oh, yeah.
Oh! And daylight come. Daylight come and I wanna go. With poets who've been coming here, sharing our words. Daylight come and I wanna go. We're community and we want to be heard. Daylight come and I wanna go. Daylight come and 6', 7 foot, tally me banana. Daylight come and I wanna go home. Metaphors piling on each other. Daylight come and I wanna go home. Oh, Now, we're gonna start a clap. Make it flat off the beat, please. Don't want to, kind of electrical. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We've got a word that we ask you to say. I am a poet and I want to say. We have a word that I ask you to say. I am a poet and I want to say. Poet, want to say. Hold you. Keep clapping. Because I'm messing with people right now. Say, yo. Say like come. On and roll. We've been sharing so much tonight. So much. And it's been a pleasure. It's just been absolutely wonderful. The energy in here is positively marvelous. I was sitting there thinking, I don't want to share. I don't know. And the more I listened, and the more I heard your words from your heart, and Jim walked over, and I thought, just let's have fun.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Well, you wasted another perfect afternoon with me. Thank you for coming down. And this is our last poem for the day. This is called The Heart's Drum Beats. I want to dedicate this to Jack and Lonnie. The sun sets with tender light's caress, like the doe and the fawn walking in the eddy of the quiet stream, thirsting only for the infinite care this mother has for her innocent child. The sun sets on the stormless sea, waves whisper to the shore, sands welcoming water, the seashore coming home. I want to dream the sleep of twigs and berries, sift soil in my hands among my fingers, knowing the Earth Mother reminds. The Earth Mother reminds to remember if we take care of her, she will take care of us. Her voice is flute calling. Her voice is hearts drumming. Her voice is HEAR, and now. Her voice is satisfied at the song in my heart. Her voice is satisfied at the song in your heart. Pluck the golden apples of the sun, the silver apples of the moon. Tiptoe into the darkness of the shadow. She is your teacher. She is your friend. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next month. We hang out after our poets. If you want to talk to the poets, you want to buy some of Roger's books, please hang out and we'll see you next month. You are so damn creative and smart, and you know what? There's a lot of men out in there that are crying because you're going to be married. They're just crying because you're so darn beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Come back. And if you want to read a piece, a prose piece,